Live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hockey Buzzcast on a Monday. Mike is up at an undisclosed location near the Canadian border, near the Toronto or the Canadian-American border. Sorry. Uh-oh.
You're glitching, Mike.
So I'm safe.
So you're safe here. Yeah, you are glitching a little bit, though. Yeah, I know. You are glitching a bit. So that's, maybe log out, log in type thing. See what happens there. Yes. So I know I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that I put Mike was on location, but in the chat room I put Mike is on lactation.
Oh, well.
Which was an accident. Didn't mean to do that.
There was certainly a time where
that may have been true, but still I just think that I don't know. I'm just saying this is what I wrote.
We could interview your mom, but we haven't.
Yeah, we're not going to go there. We're just having a normal show today. I'm just happy that the rumor chart is live, which is always an exciting time for me. And because there's a lot of work that goes into that, we can talk about that the rumor chart today. And I've got a really good Toronto Maple Leaf rumor that goes along with the rumor chart that I've been holding off on till the rumor chart launched.
So I have one quickie story.
Okay.
So there's a particular hand cream now that works really well for me, right?
Yeah.
I tried a bunch of different stuff. What's that?
Sorry, that was my car starting.
There you go.
I tried a bunch of different stuff and it didn't work. And it turns out that Bed Bath & Body has something that actually works for me, right?
Okay.
Keeps my skin hydrated. So
nice.
I went to go in there today and hey.
Let me start by saying most people do come here for this kind of advice. So continue.
Right, that's what I figured.
I know. So go on. Mm-hmm.
I go in there for myself, not for my wife or anything. And I see that they're having a sale and now I could get like 3 times the amount that I bought last time for $1 more. So great. I go and get it. Lo and behold, next to it was a bunch of testers, and I totally destroyed the testers. Like I knocked them to the floor. There was like 6 of them. Nobody moves. Nobody who works there moves. Nobody did anything. So because I used to work in retail, I pick them all up.
Right.
I put them back the right way, and I say to the register, "Hey, sorry for wiping out your display." And she was like, "Eh." I used to be like a regional manager. That would flip me out. I would have been picking it up for the person in 10 seconds. They didn't flinch.
It's a different era now, man. It's a different era. People are nicer than they were when we were younger. This like usually, and I was taught, when we were growing up that that the generations would get nastier and people would get meaner in general. Like that's what you usually feel like, that's usually what happens. Yeah. And I honestly believe that people are nicer now than they were when we were kids. And in
many ways they are because they're more transparent. And I think that adds a niceness where before people would act nice and still sort of like, be nasty to you through other people. And you'd always
say they are not nicer. They just don't care. That's what's going on.
All right, well, I'll take apathy over angriness. I like it. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I mean, that's where I'm going. Mike, you're kind of still glitching. I'm sorry to say, but we have to kind of figure out maybe drive to a different place or something.
I'm searching for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, do that now. I'm going to remove you from the stream temporarily because you're all over the place. All right. Okay, here we go. Plus, I want people to be able to see my shoulders, like that's now no one can ever see. I do all this stuff. Like I have on the side here, like I have my cool telescope here. Like no one ever gets to see this stuff because the screen is so thin. That's all that there's. Anyway. All right. Slimster says in the chat room, I'm never nice. I like that. That's cool. There you have it. I wanted to talk about something really fast before I get into it, and then I'm going to do something that's going to mark the beginning of the show because I've been getting a lot of requests for this. I'm trying to figure out what that is, but I'm going to do something that'll help people if they don't want to listen to this beginning. Okay, so are you frozen too, Russ?
No, I'm not.
Okay, cool. You just were absolutely.
I'm amazed at what was being said on Twitter.
You're absolutely stationary.
I just had someone who's in Flyer Media tweet to me because I had talked about maybe Robert Hagg getting showcased the other night.
Yeah,
and Anthony Sanfilippo said, "Hey, no team's going to play a player just because another team might be interested." And that happens all the time.
All the time. I mean, and it's not like we're not talking about bringing up a player.
No, just
who does not play. But if it's a choice between like if he's in or out of the lineup All,
Right.
like one of these guys. It's like right now, like
I
Gostisbehere.
said it was Robert
I'm
Hagg.
surprised that Gostisbehere didn't play against Calgary because I heard Calgary had interest in him. But
Calgary knows what he. See, Calgary. That's a fair point, but I don't think Calgary was looking at Gostisbehere. I think another team was looking at Robert Hagg. And so what I had said on our show that we do on Sunday off the post is that, hey,
right.
I think the Flyers played Hagg because he hadn't played in a while. I think they played him so teams could see him because he hadn't played in a while, and there wouldn't be any scouting report. So I don't know. I fundamentally disagree with that.
I mean, it's. I think you can both be right because no one's ever going to admit.
Be right.
Well, because no one's ever going to admit to that's what they're doing, right? That's never going to be an admission. All right, Mike, we got you at home. Let's see. There we go. It looks better. It's a lot better, Mike. Thanks. All right.
Well, I had to hook up the Wi-Fi.
There you go. No one's ever going to admit this, Russ. But the fact of the matter is, there's players that are 6.5, one half dozen the other, honestly. And in situations where if you're carrying 7 or 8 defensemen, and somebody wants to see that particular defenseman, and he's going to play every couple of games, or play 2 out of every 4 games, or 2 out of every 3 games, or whatever, you're going to play him in that game.
You're going to play him.
We're going to be there to watch him. So that's an issue. That I don't think he's going anywhere though. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think
Gostisbehere is. I think Gostisbehere they're trying to get right. I think Hagg is a spare part right now, and if they could get something for him, they'd like to.
Well, they're not going to trade. They're not going to trade. They're not going to trade Gostisbehere right now because he's at his lowest value now because he's playing badly.
Right.
Okay. So this has been hockey content, but it's okay. I'm going to start the show now, and we're going to get going. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about my beef I have with people who have a beef about Mr. Rogers because I'm really angry about what's been going on about that. Okay. Because Mr. Rogers is a phenomenal.
I took a picture of Mr. Rogers.
He's a phenomenal person, and what's happening
with the statue in Pittsburgh. Just to be fair.
That's very different. But what's happening right now?
I know. I was kidding.
Happening right now is horrible.
But I hugged it. I hugged the statue. I have a picture of me hugging the Mr. Rogers statue.
There you go. Well, this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to me only here and just try to create something that'll because I told somebody I would try to do this. Okay, the show is starting. This means the show is starting. When you see it.
Boy.
All right, there you go. All right, the show's starting. Ready? Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, November 25th, 2019. That's a good guess.
I'm Michael Agello sitting outside a Panera.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. I feel like I'm on the Uncle Floyd show, but that's okay.
And I'm Eklund, wearing my Quebec Nordique shirt because long live Le Nord. And we'll hopefully be back in the near future. I hope. That's got to be the next team that enters the NHL. And you're watching Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And thank you guys for filling in for me last week. Last week was a horrible week with my son, but things are a little bit better right now. So we're up and down, but I really appreciate I get a lot of nice well wishes. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but at some point I'm going to do something for the charity for the condition he has for sure. So because the people over at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia are just phenomenal.
Heck, and I don't want to squash your holiday hopes and dreams for Quebec team being the next team in, but Seattle's going to be the next team in. Anyhow, we can move
to that. Yes, of course.
Yeah, no, Quebec is already in the league. It's just they're named something else right now.
Oh, that's a good theory. I like that one. All right. Okay, so here we go. We have a lot to get into. It was a weekend of hockey, and we also launched the rumor chart. But we have a couple suspensions to start with. First, I guess the latest one being Alex Kerfoot, who was suspended for 2 games for boarding Colorado's Eric Johnson.
Yeah, well, let's lump the two of them in together because in both instances, George Peros got him way wrong. Robert Bortuzzo deserved to get suspended for at least 5 games and maybe more because he's done this before. He did. There's a video out there where he did it to Brock Nelson. I don't know if he got suspended for that one. I don't think
anything happened though.
Right. But he's been suspended before. He's a repeat offender for other things, and he gets suspended for 4 games, and Arvidsson's out for 6 weeks. That is criminal. That he only got 4 games. Now, Kerfoot hasn't been suspended once in his career. It was a former teammate. It was a check that was maybe 10. It was a cross check that was maybe 10 feet away from the boards. Johnson loses his balance and goes slamming into the boards. He did not get injured. He came back in the game and played the rest of the game, and he gets 2 games. The Department of Player Safety is off their rocker when it comes to suspensions because they were off on Kerfoot, and it probably should have been a fine, and they're way off on Bertuzzo.
Well, actually, Anthony Stewart said something interesting today because as a former player, I believe in him with this, and I saw the play, but I didn't see the close up like he did, and apparently Bertuzzo looked at the ref and was like, "Really, you're calling that? If you're going to call that, I'm going to make it worth my while." Like he had that kind of look on. And then so he upped the ante on it, which he did in that other hit too. He got worse and worse. So you know what I do? I make him play without a stick, or I make him play with a added stick because he can't play otherwise.
He cross-checked Arvidsson into the net basically, and then you're right. Bertuzzo looked at the referee because he got a minor penalty for that, and he said, "Okay, if I'm going to get a minor, I'm going to get my money's worth." Right. And he cross-checked him with all of his weight in Arvidsson's lower back, and he's out 4 to 6 weeks. And that,
I mean, into where he's going to hit metal there too.
Yeah,
like it was just. This is where the guy uses the stick as a weapon. It's been shown a couple of times online. You don't have to swing your stick to use it as a weapon. There are other ways to do it. And to me, it's like getting almost as bad as getting hit with like a billy club by a policeman. Like it probably feels.
It doesn't feel good.
And I don't know why he only got 4 games. I don't get it. Like it's just we don't need these guys in the league. We really don't.
Well, he got almost the maximum of what you could get for a phone hearing. So I don't know if that should be removed, the designation between phone hearing and in-person hearing. But honestly, they shirked their responsibility right away by not making that an in-person hearing because it was serious enough and he was a repeat offender. And I'm not defending Bertuzzo, but honestly, if he doesn't do that in terms of intimidating forwards coming to the front of the net, he's out of a job. He's got to be that type of defenseman because right. But I'm saying Russ, that call for that suspension for him, it's almost worth his while because now it's like Radko Gudas. Who's going to go to the front of the net now when Bertuzzo's on the ice? It's intimidation. It's deterrent. I don't agree with it. He should have been suspended more, but that's probably why he did it.
Even Gudas isn't that dirty. He's not that.
No, but I'm saying for Bertuzzo, it's worth the suspension because it's job security for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think he's. I mean, I've never been a big fan of his personally because I think I remember the one hit took out one of the Predators in the playoffs one year, which was just a really dirty. I mean, he's good at making things not look dirty. Also, he's very good at
right. But here's where Mike is.
After a while, you're dirty if you hurt enough players. Like it might not look dirty all the time.
I just looked it up. His last suspension that I could find was last September, 3 games for elbowing. Like if you got 3 for elbowing, you certainly could double this suspension.
Yeah. It's a little bit. Yeah, I agree with that. That's pretty shady. I don't want to touch on all the people, by the way, and this is like a pet peeve I have right now. There's a lot of people piling on Mike Babcock out there. I don't know if he's I see Mitch Marner had something to say about it. Also we had. Was it Zetterberg came out and said something about it? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just to me, it's I hate that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to get.
Well, I'll only say this. It became a social media storm last night when there was a quote from an article from the Terry Koshan of the Toronto Sun regarding something that happened with Babcock. With a rookie player a couple years ago that he basically asked him to write something about other players on the team, and he did, and then he revealed it to the other players, which I think is disgusting. It's dastardly, but I guess that's some of the old trickery that Babcock uses. I don't agree with it. I think that doesn't exactly develop esprit de corps on a roster. That's something that is used to undercut players. And I'm not going to defend Mike Commodore because Mike Commodore is a sick prick. Basically with the stuff that he is posting online, and even to the point of posting a picture of Babcock loading up stuff in his pickup truck, leaving his condo in Toronto. That has no place. I think that's just stupid.
No,
but
I'm not a big fan of what Commodore's doing there either. So,
but let me just finish this. But the criticism of Babcock and his methods of motivation and his things that he does, I think are fair game in the sense that, I mean, he left, and we've heard the stories, and I'm not going to go into it, but we heard the stories of what he left in his wake in Detroit.
yeah.
And now you're hearing similar things of what he left in his wake in Toronto. That doesn't mean that Toronto is automatically going to be a success because he's gone, because look at Detroit, what happened with Detroit. They were not a success after Babcock left. So I'm just saying that I think that some of the things that he does is not the things that are conducive to the modern game and the modern player, and those are contributing factors to the reason he got fired.
Well, Friedman reached out to. Did you see this too? This came out like 45 minutes ago. That Friedman reached out to Babcock about the Mitch Marner thing, and he replied via text that I was trying to focus on work ethic with Mitch, focusing on role models, ended up not being a good idea. I apologized at the time.
Yeah, so he admitted it, and
so
I don't have a real. I don't think it's awful.
It's pretty awful. I mean,
it's pretty bad, but at the same time, I know this kind of stuff does occur a lot.
But let's forget that this is a sports team, right? Let's say this is a business, and let's say you just hired a guy. He's 2 weeks in, and you say, "Hey, do me a favor. Tell me what you think of everybody. Put it on paper." So he does, and then you read it to everybody.
No, that part of it is horrendous. I agree with you.
Right, but I mean, that's you wouldn't do it in business, so why would you do it as a sports team? This is where it's bad for Mike Babcock to do this, and I'm a little disappointed that we're finding out about it now, that it was just buried this deep until now.
Yeah, we all know that Mike Agello is the laziest blogger on Hockey Buzz.
And I've had Mike write these things, and one day no, but yeah, I mean, like the only thing that we really have an issue with is him sharing it with everybody else, right? Like that's the issue.
No. I have the issue with him critiquing. He is a rookie. Why in the world?
I don't think that that's a real big deal. Like I think
deal. Why would you have a rookie critiquing basically his elders or professionals that have been there when he is a rookie? That is fundamentally wrong. And
the detail of the story is Marner put himself as the lowest person on the list.
Good for him,
but
to do that,
right? But of course he would do that because just Babcock asking him to do that in the first place is a hint that he believes that he is not trying hard enough. But then it's one thing to do that and be self-critical. It's another thing to be critical of your teammates and then letting your teammates know. And I have to give to the defense of Nazem Kadri and Tyler Bozak, they had a problem with what Babcock did because you put a 19-year-old. Yeah, you put a 19-year-old kid in that position, and what the hell is he supposed to do? So you know what? I think that is weak. It is so weak. And if that is one contributing factor in terms of a number of things, then I can understand why he was fired.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that you do have to wonder if this had anything to do with Marner playing hardball too. Like,
no, I say I heard that theory that this is the reason why he asked for that.
I'm just saying. I'm not
that's
agreeing. That's good. Yeah. This is why I hate this kind of stuff, because it takes things that's what's going to occur, right? It's going to drive everybody nuts and that kind of thing.
Actually, what you don't, again, when you, like, I've been in the corporate world, right? And if you've held a high enough position in the corporate world, and I was told this before I ever took a position where maybe these kinds of things would happen, I was told on more than one occasion, on the way out, you're going to get killed. Just know that. So
yeah. Well, that's true.
And so this is now what's going to happen for the next few weeks and months. And it's unfair to Babcock because it's like, you know what? You should have killed him while he was there. You don't.
Yeah, but
on the way out.
But in terms of,
you know what it is? The reason I'm saying that is I think the fans are right in the sense that if you want to give the impression that they're too easy on the Leafs at times, well, then this does give that impression, like the writers let this go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I don't know about that. All I know is let's just say this: this will not hurt Mike Babcock one iota when it comes to getting another job.
Of course it won't. Doesn't
Yeah,
make
this just right. Doesn't mean it's right, but this is
Babcock's
this
done
is
that to himself already.
right. But Ack, he's going to get hired. If not this year, then over the summer. You know, this is fodder. This is fodder for the media, and I'm a member of it. So
less money to do that. I mean, I'm right now. I don't see him getting another. I mean, someone wrote up in the chat room is he for Seattle. I don't.
I thought that before the story. Now I'm not sure.
I will bet you. I will bet you cookies, Zach. We lost Zach. I will bet you cookies that Babcock will be a coach next year. It could be.
I think he will.
Nashville or Tampa. Or Nashville or Tampa or Minnesota or Winnipeg. There's a number of scenarios where I think he could be hired as soon as this summer. He'll probably take the rest of the year off. There's intimations that he's going to do the same thing that Joel Quenneville did and take the rest of the year off, go skiing and do whatever. And the other thing is that the Leafs have right of first refusal here. They can basically say, okay, you want permission to talk to Babcock. And I think it was Elliot Friedman that said he's making close to $6 million. They can put a stipulation that, okay, you can talk to Babcock, but if you're hiring him at $5.85 million. So we don't have to be on the hook for the rest of his contract. Right. That'll be the stipulation.
And Babcock's not going to do any scouting for them. Like that time that JFJ was sitting next to me in Philly shortly after he was fired. That's what happens with a lot of GMs. A lot of them go back out on the road or scout or to fulfill the remainder of the contract. I think it's fair to say Babcock won't be doing anything for the Leafs.
Yeah, and I was up in Toronto this morning. It was Sheldon Keefe's first practice with the Leafs, and it was a lot different than just structurally, a lot different than it was previously. With Babcock, the normal practice was everybody would come out on the ice at the same time. They'd run through a few drills. I mean, Keefe is taking over in midstream here. He had the defenseman practice on one pad. He had the forwards practice on the other. They came together halfway through the practice. They ran through different drills. I think there's going to be a lot of teaching going on because Keefe's strategies are definitely different than Babcock's. And another thing, they recalled Michael Hutchinson. They sent Kazimir Kaskasuo back down to the Marlies with a back-to-back coming up. So Kaskasuo's one and only game in his NHL career may have been the game that eventually got Mike Babcock fired because it wasn't his fault, but that was the one game. And that
by the way, the players didn't do anything. I think it's
right. It showed that there was nothing there. They figured that they would rally around a rookie who a lot of them played with, and there was just no pulse there. And basically, I think it was an admission by that group that they had tuned him out.
And by the way, the kid was really gracious. Like he's like, "Oh, I finally got to play in the NHL. It's been a long ride." Yeah. He was totally gracious, even though he was hung out to dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a 26-year-old kid who went to Minnesota Duluth, signed as a college free agent, has worked his way through the AHL. He earned the opportunity. He had a good start to the season, and his teammates and his friends didn't show up for that game. So that was a commentary on the Leafs and how they were playing at that point.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So Robin Lehner won the internet for me last night. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but on Twitter, Robin Lehner has had a horrible career shootout record, just terrible. That's been one of his problems for sure. And they lost the game in a shootout yesterday. The Hawks did. So he says, and he's getting all these people calling in saying that he should do this, do that. So he says, and of course people with Robin Lehner are going to say that he's not mentally tough enough to handle the shootout. That's where people are going to go because he's had mental disease issues, right? So
disgusting.
Right, which is disgusting. So his response to this this I thought was awesome. He says, first, let's get this out of the way. It's not a mental problem. This is on Twitter because I don't feel any type of pressure anymore. Proven that with my performance in contract years and in countless insane situations, and I can still perform on the ice. So here we go. I want to hear from all the experts in the media on what my new shootout strategy should be. I'm all ears. The shootout is not hockey, so I got to learn this sport somehow, and hopefully one of the experts can help me as all my goalie coaches haven't been able to yet. Sabres fans would love to hear from your opinion as well. Don't be shy. Let's turn this thing around together. Happy Sunday.
Yeah,
and then he waits an hour and says, "Got any tips?" And then like 5 hours later, says, "Thanks for all the advice, guys. I'll be sure I'll give you guys credit if I manage to win one in the future. God bless and good night."
I'm sure Sabres fans would probably respond by sending him a liquid beverage for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And that's being caustic, but I'm just saying, they don't call just the Sabres fans out for his, and this has been a failing of his going back to the Senators. So I think
that he did the lack of love he felt in Buffalo was pretty strong,
Well, that's
compared to the lack of love he felt in Ottawa.
The reason is because one day he looked like Terry Sawchuk, and the next day he looked like Hardy Astrom. He was completely inconsistent. There was never. I mean, he was phenomenal with the Islanders, and I'm very glad for him to have gotten his life straightened out. And I'm sorry that he struggled, because the Buffalo organization at the time that he was there was a train wreck. It's a little bit better now, but I mean, the thing is, Lehner is a big goaltender, and he's a shot blocker. I don't think he's a goalie in the sense of, a guy like Cujo in the back in the day, a reflex goalie. He's a shot blocker. And those guys, when you slow it down in a shootout situation and you have a chance to take them apart, they get taken apart.
Well, I want to mention this. I think this is a trend now with players, because Tony DeAngelo did something similar, because there was a guy, and I won't name his name. If you see it online, that's great, who posted a thing about Ryan Strome, and he posted a graph and analytics that would tell you that Ryan Strome isn't great. And DeAngelo responded with, "I see these tweets all the time, and it's actually hilarious how people think that these charts are what everything should be based on." He put the laughing emoji. "Strome has been one of our best players since being traded last year. Watch the games." And what's interesting is, like last year, he had a ridiculous shooting percentage. I don't know if you remember, it was like 20% or something. But I knew he was going to get re-signed because he had a lot of goals, even strength. This year, he is playing like the Ryan Strome that we always thought he could be. And he's been playing second-line center, which, again, not an easy job.
No.
And
I
so,
mean, one other thing about the Robin Lehner thing is he actually, he gets 137 replies to this, right? And then replies to the replies Robin Lehner does, which is amazing on Twitter. Do that as well. Like Robbie Schremp sends him something. Says if you come out a little further, it gives the shooter less to look at and causes them more stress. The deeper you are,
and Robbie Schremp was a shootout specialist. Brack, I have to say, you have to bring your dog back, because when Russ mentioned analytics, there was a yawn. It was a perfect thing. It was a perfect yawn. And I give Tony DeAngelo complete credit for going to bat for his teammate. You know what? What he's saying is, bleep analytics, and that I think a lot of players think that.
Michael Jello's views and Panda's views don't represent the views of the show. I want to
Panda. Are you sure about that? Yeah, I know. No, this dog definitely believes in old school hockey that you got to watch a player to understand if he's any good, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Someone wrote the tomahawk chop. They just recommended him running full steam at the player coming to shoot on the shootout, which I love that idea. That would be great.
I mean, when you do that, it can be done, right?
Yeah.
If you do that with someone like McDavid or McKinnon, they're going to go around you.
They're going to go around you.
There are some players, because the ice isn't great at the end of the game, that could lose the puck.
Can I tell you one of my worst moments in playing sports? I'm going to brief story here as a child.
We have enough time?
Yes. Thanks. I appreciate it, Russ. It's not that long of a story. I was known for taking a lot of penalties as a goalie. Okay. I was definitely not I was, I wanted to be Pelle Lindbergh, but I was actually more like Billy Smith as a goalie. Because I had a little bit of a temper, and I,
So that's why Eric has a mouse under his eye from you butt ending him in the face.
No, because Eric was always on my team, and truth be told, Eric and I had this thing that we did all the time that he could never score 3 out of 10 breakaways on me in shootouts, and he never has till this day. So he might disagree, but I don't think he ever has. But I got really pissed off one time, and the guy, this team we're playing, they were so far ahead of us, and they were just running up the score, and it was a rotten game. And a guy came in on the breakaway, and I literally did that. As he was in the breakaway, I took my stick and I held it out to my side, and held it up in the air as he headed towards me. And I never swung it at him, but I went back like I'm about to swing it at you if you get close to me. He shot it off my pad, and then I went like this, and I almost hit him, but I didn't. That was like one of those moments that everybody was like.
Clearly, David Rittich of Calgary has a little bit of a temper because he was a little testy in the locker room with a reporter, not the media, not with the rest of the media, but in the game. I don't know if you saw this, but Farabee was like in his kitchen, and I don't remember what the circumstances were. I don't know if it was a power play. I don't remember if it was just before the whistle, after a whistle, and he touched Rittich's stick, and Rittich moved his stick so he'd get his hand off him, and just gave him like a love tap on the hand with the stick, like basically to say, "Stay away, rookie, because otherwise I'm going to get you with this." And it was interesting because that is a normal goalie reaction. Like I don't think that there's anything crazy about that.
It's really no, I don't think so either.
Remember, guys, when you're a goalie, guys are shooting the puck as hard as they can at you. Sometimes they're shooting at your head on purpose. Yeah. Sometimes when they're trying. And I'll tell you what I see that pisses off the goalies more than anything are guys when the whistle is blown that are still trying to jam the puck in the net. That seems to really get under the skin, and I don't blame goalies for that.
And it's one of those days, there's there's that. I mean, there's the tapping the puck into the net after the whistle. That's a big one. And it's funny because that happens all the time in soccer. Like when I coach soccer, I coach girls soccer, and my daughter is a goalie in soccer and has spent more time watching professional hockey than she has professional soccer. So when someone does tap the ball into the net, I've seen my daughter go after them. And that's like something that no one knows what to make of that in soccer. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you just don't do that. You don't do that. Because actually, I get it. Rittich was kind of impressed with him in that game.
Well, there was a reason to be impressed. I'll tell you what the biggest reason was. I know people wanted to give Farabee credit for the play behind the net, but Rittich came clean and said, look, I goofed on that. I thought a defenseman was over there. He wasn't. That's all on me. So it wasn't that Farabee knocked away the puck. He didn't. But the fact that he didn't crumble after that and made spectacular saves and kept them in the game and was great in the shootout, and then on the final shootout attempt when he gloved that, you could tell that was like cathartic.
It was very cathartic. And I just thought the first half of that game, he was outstanding. And I thought he did. And, he was not only outstanding, but he was just really what I like about him is he's an aggressive goalie. Like he's actually out on his angle. He's out pushing out, and he's way more aggressive than 99% of the goalies in the NHL. I'm not a fan of this concept of just letting the puck hit you. I am more of a fan of personally, I'm the fan of goalies that make saves. Like that was I remember my Brian Perron interview was one of my favorite moments of my life. And I interviewed him and I said, what's the difference between goalies now and then? And he said, we made saves and now the goalies make the puck hit them. And that is absolutely true. And I still think that, to me, that is something that I'm still a big fan of, like the goalies who do make saves, and that, obviously got to be in good position. But that's why, like a guy like Lehner, I'm never a huge fan of because, and I'll say the same for like Hallebuck, who's like another, good goalie, another good goalie I'm not a big fan of. But I am, Riddick. I've been impressed with Riddick.
After this year, if last year wasn't good enough for you, I mean, this year is even better.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I'm coming around. Believe me, it's like and I love this kind of stuff too because when you find this kind of stuff, this is why social media can be really good. For Robin Lehner, like I'm reading this, I'm like, I can't rip on this guy. This is like this guy's like it's awesome. He's someone says to him, that you should pretend the sport is pretend it's a breakaway and you just stop the puck from going in. Somebody throws that idiot comment in there, right? And he responds to it. He's like, that's funny, but yeah, my game is actually about 80% about reading the play as it's developing, and I can't read the shootout. And he responds to that like very honestly and openly, like kind of crazy.
Just get the other team to use Robert Bertuzzo in the shootout, and you have a chance.
Yeah, you might have. I mean, and then of course Chris Stewart, who's yet to take a shootout for the Flyers, right? Despite the fact he was,
even though he's 40%, yes,
he's a specialist.
They're signing him like, we'll get all the extra points we'll get for him. Not happening. All right.
Let's talk some rumors.
Let's get into some rumors. And by doing that, I want to get into that. I'm going to go into the rumor chart here on Hockey Buzz. And and a real quick explanation about the rumor chart, which I always have to do. This is a one-time explanation. I will not explain it again, so listen carefully. The rumor chart versus my rumor blogs, there's a difference. Okay, rumor blogs are I get some source tells me something and I write it. Okay, and I know like you guys will all point out quickly, and rightfully so. Like, oh, there's no way that could happen. Mike will be the first to say that could never happen. There's no way, Babcock could be fired next week. It's not possible that this could happen. So, and I say, I don't think so either, because it makes no sense to me either, but I heard it. So I write about it. And that's and I try to I try to just be a literal reporter where I'm just reporting what I'm hearing and not editing it. Because a couple times I have edited where things are getting crazy, like Garth Snow being hired as GM. I had that story 25 minutes before it happened, but I couldn't believe it was true. Someone told me about it. I'm like, no, I can't write that. I can't write Garth Snow is going to be the new GM of the New York Islanders. So since that was the last time I think I've ever just said no. I'm now if I trust the source, I go with it. That's the rumor. That's my rumor blogs. The rumor chart, though, however, is where I take sort of more of my logic and stuff I'm hearing kind of off the record and just little chatter that I'm hearing and try to put together my personal speculation as to where I think this player could end up. So that's the rumor chart. Very different than the rumor blog. All right. So the rumor blog is for you. Rumor charts. Rumor blog is just like you decide. Rumor chart is this is what I think. You can tell me what you think. If you think that's wrong. All right. So the rumor chart launched 20 players right now, which is pretty good because this is a kind of a year that feels like, right now it feels like it's going to be a light trade rumor thing. It feels like it's going to be a light draft, like a light trade deadline, because there's not a lot of top name guys out there. There's not a lot of like these UFAs on teams that are terrible that you normally would hope for.
I think there'll be trades made before the deadline.
But I think this year we'll have a lot more interesting and non-expected trades. You'll have a lot of trades that no one, Bob McKenzie or Elliot Friedman or no one sees coming. That they're going to have a lot of that this year.
Well, there might be hockey deals because those will be, money in, money out situations. And there are a lot of teams that are close to the cap and they're going to need those types of deals are going to need to be made. But I would disagree slightly, that if you look at the rosters of teams like Detroit and Ottawa, they're strewn with UFAs. Pajot is probably going to get dealt. Guys like Hainsey, UFAs that they signed. I think they signed them for a year, and then they're going to deal them at the deadline if they don't have any no trade protection. I also think guys like if Mike Green could actually stay healthy, he's on the IR again. He'll get traded from Detroit.
He's about to come back.
Yeah.
I left. This is pretty funny because I've been writing about Pajot rumors, but I left him off this chart for now. And the reason being that I talked to somebody in Ottawa right before I did it, because I went and bought, like you say, a bunch of players in Ottawa. So I wanted to get their feel for it. And he said they really think that he's going to sign again very soon. So I said, okay. They said if he signs again, it'll be within the next week or so. Leave it off the chart for a week. If after a week he hasn't signed, then you know that whatever's going on now didn't happen, and then maybe he ends up on the rumor chart. So that's why I don't have him.
This much, just from what I see out there, there's definitely 4 teams that are willing to make a deal. Philly, Buffalo, Calgary, and Tampa seem to all be willing to make deals.
Yeah. I was going to say, Jason Botterill came out last week, actually held a press conference in the press box, said that they were looking for forwards. So I would be on the lookout for Buffalo doing something, anything that would bring them a forward. They called up Jean-Sebastien D. Okay. I thought we lost you for a second.
No.
They called up Jean-Sebastien D because Evan Rodriguez got hurt. So they were down to 10. They were playing 11 forwards and 7 defensemen against Florida yesterday, and they were actually down to 10 forwards. So the need to add a forward, and they have 9 defensemen healthy, and Bogosian's about to come back. So that's a situation where I think Buffalo is going to need to make a move. I haven't seen the chart act, but I'll just tell you that on the weekend, and I wrote about it a little bit yesterday, Chris Johnston from Sportsnet reported that Doug Armstrong, the St. Louis GM, was at the Leafs-Avs game, and it's like the second time he has been at a Leaf game in recent weeks. The Leafs and the Blues have been attached to rumors to make a big trade since last year when the Blues were on the verge of selling guys like Tarasenko and Pietrangelo before they had their second half renaissance and then their run to the cup. They're in first place right now, so I don't think that's the motivation. But if they believe they don't have any chance to sign Pietrangelo, and they've already signed Justin Falk, I mean, I wouldn't do it if I were them because I think they have a legitimate chance to win the second cup in a row. But maybe they're open to trading Pietrangelo. I'd be skeptical, but that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Okay, so let me get into this for a bit, and I don't have Pietrangelo on here yet either. So first of all, I have to adjust the fact that I have 3,242 new private messages. That literally is in the. I emptied out that every week, so that is that's what I get on there. So just so you guys know, I'm sorry about that, but I do empty that out, and I do get to them. I do spend like an entire night going through them as fast as I possibly can. But here we go. So let's go through. I'm going to start with Tyler Toffoli, who is I'm going to give you guys now. Obviously, if you pay for the rumor chart, you get the whole rumor chart. It's only $20 a year. We really appreciate it. We all can keep eating food if you do that. That's great. $3.99 a month. It's fantastic. But for you guys, for the sake of the chat and all those on the podcast, we really appreciate you guys. I'm going to give you like 4 or 5 names here that are for free for today. But these change every day. All right. So Tyler Toffoli. The Bruins thing is for real. Like that's something that's been out there a lot. It's definitely really true. It's not something that, is being made up or anything like that. But I don't think many people have had the Islanders connected with him and I have heard a lot of that. And it does make some sense. If Lou's he's got about $5 million to spend, and he wants to get a player. I was told like last year, you remember he didn't really go out and do much. And the reasoning for that was he didn't want to mess up the chemistry of the team. Because they were on what seemed like an improbable, never again run. And yet here they are again, right? And I think this year he's looking at it like, okay, Tyler Toffoli is the perfect guy you can get. He can fill in that spot that you need, a little bit of more scoring up front. And he also brings you a bunch of Stanley Cups. He brings you that experience, which the Islanders don't have. And for Lamoriello, that's an important thing. And I think that also goes to why the Predators are interested. Go ahead, Russ.
No, I could see that. What I don't see is him going to Boston, and I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. Because you do have the experienced guys, and really, you're bringing in a slower version of Ryan Donato. Maybe he's a little better scorer right this moment, Toffoli, but you are bringing in the same player.
Yeah.
Yes, but in a situation where he's a rental and that he doesn't have term on his contract like Coyle did last year, if you get
slower, do they want to get slower?
No, but I think, I think that they're still looking for that top 6 winger.
That's what they're looking for.
Yeah. So, I think that this is a stopgap addressing of it. I think they would rather pay a 3rd round pick or something like that for Toffoli than spending what they would have to get an actual real top 6 winger.
He cost them a lot. So if we're getting to that, yeah.
I actually think Toffoli is going to be more than a 3rd round pick, which is probably
crazy. I'm just using that as an example. I'm sure that when there's a bidding war, and I would put Buffalo on that list because Toffoli and Buffalo have been attached to in terms of rumors for easily 2 years, maybe longer, and that sort of fits.
I talked to people up there. I tried. I could not get any more going with that right now. I have heard the rumors too, though, Mike. So it is very possible he will end up on this list. I just haven't found the person yet. I haven't found anybody to tell me that yet. Going to Taylor Hall. This is a really interesting one because I don't think he's going back to New Jersey in any way, shape, or form from talking to people. I think that he is, if John Tavares was like, if John Tavares had any idea he wasn't going to go back to the Islanders, Hall has 10 times that. About not going back to New Jersey for whatever reason. I think he just doesn't want to be there. I think the biggest thing for Taylor Hall is he loved it in Edmonton when he was there, and when he was traded, that hurt him a lot. He hated it, and he wants to go. He wants to pick where he plays. He's like, I'm, and that's nothing against New Jersey. I just think he wants to play. I think he wants to play in Canada. Honestly, I think he does want to play in Canada, but I also think that I think Calgary is a definite place where he could go.
Well, I'll say,
if you remember right, he is actually from the Calgary area.
I'll say on that list, the one, and Kevin, when we had Kevin on the show last week, he did say he had heard a lot of Colorado rumors regarding Taylor Hall, and that could be the cherry on top of the sundae when Rantanen and Landeskog come back with that defense. If they add a Hall to that, to have him play on a second line, that would be incredible. Not everything is centered on Buffalo, but. There has been some speculation based on Kruger's history with Hall in Edmonton that the Sabres might be interested. And now, if they're not in the playoff race, which right now they're not, then they're not going to waste young assets to bring in Hall as a rental. But maybe in the summer that Buffalo would be a potential destination for Hall because of his relationship with Kruger back in Edmonton.
I could see that. I mean,
Yeah.
there he wouldn't be the savior type because Eichel's the guy. So that's good because I feel like if he accepts a trade to Calgary, they're going to look at him to fix all the ills, and I don't think he's going to want to do that.
They'll put
does like that kind of stuff. Like that.
I don't know if he does anymore.
They'll put him on they'll put him on the left wing with Goudreau and Monahan. That's what they'll do, Russ.
Yeah.
I mean, again, and if they don't make the playoffs, they'll be like, well, that was a waste of time and a waste.
And I do think this though. I think that first of all, I give Shiro some credit. I think Ray Shiro is actually a very good GM. So I think that what's going to end up happening here with Shiro, which is kind of interesting, is that he will be, if he hasn't already, and he may have already, I couldn't get anyone to say that he had, give teams the ability to talk to Hall, about.
I don't think he's done that yet. I would agree.
I don't think he's done that yet, but we wouldn't know because Shiro is very good. Shiro is very good at keeping things under wraps.
Yeah, but
that was with a team like, say, the Nashville Predators, where Shiro are so tight to each other.
We have to be careful with that because does anybody really feel? Because remember, Taylor Hall's agent is Darren Ferris. Do we really think that Taylor Hall is going to sign a contract in season, or he's just going to agree to a deal based? I don't think he has any no trade protection. He's going to say, okay, I'll think about it in terms of talking to another team, but that's not worth anything.
This is only. You're 100% right, Mike. But if it's the team, if it's where he wants to go.
Yeah, if it's the one team he's targeted, sure.
Right, then yes. I mean, so to me, the thing is, if they find out, like if he says, I want to go to Calgary, I'll talk extension with Calgary because Taylor Hall is not having the best of seasons, and let's
the whole team isn't.
I know. I think that for the most part he'll be forgiven for that, but I don't think when he goes to negotiate a contract because he's going to be the biggest fish out there. But there's no question. I think that the Colorado is a great short term, like, okay, I'm just going to go there for the rest of the year because they have the money and they can do it and they can make it happen. But I think that New Jersey has to ask for a ton here, right?
Yeah, and Hall will put up monstrous numbers with the Avs. There's
no two ways about that. Moving on to Mike Hoffman for a second.
Wait, I want to give you a fun trade. This will never happen, but imagine if the Devils offered up Taylor Hall and one of their top prospects to Dallas for Tyler Seguin. What kind of headlines would we see in that?
Can you imagine? I know.
It'd be unbelievable.
That would be something.
Tyler.
I know those guys. That was a fun year covering both those guys.
It was a fun year.
All right, Mike Hoffman. The interesting thing about the Florida Panthers, because I'm also doing the next articles I'm going to be doing are on each division and what teams need. The interesting thing about the Florida Panthers is that they are the third worst defensive team in the NHL right now.
Yeah,
it's an astonishing thing.
Really, they don't have a lot.
I mean, they don't, and they at the same, and yet they remember this is the team that went and signed Bobrovsky. This is a big team, right? So this is the third worst defensive team in the NHL. They are going to use him to try to get a big defenseman in. Obviously, that's what they want to do. And Hoffman, I just think they just know he doesn't want to resign there, and they've been trying for 2 years to move him because he's such a talented player. Why would you be moving him if otherwise?
Right.
I mean, and this feels like almost like not Stone, but close, to like. I mean, he's not as good as Stone, obviously, but I think of Hoffman and Stone because they're both Ottawa Senators. I think of them together a lot, but Hoffman's pretty good. And the interesting team that I found on this one, again, you have the Islanders again, but in that situation, which is tricky. I would be really.
Why don't you say why the Islanders would be tricky? Because Quenneville probably doesn't want anything to do with Nick Leddy, and that's probably the guy that would get off.
Yeah, that's probably it. It's just trading within. If you're Florida, do you trade within your conference? Like I don't think Taylor Hall is going to be. The reason I don't say Buffalo, I don't think Taylor Hall is going to be traded anywhere. He might sign with Buffalo next year, but I don't think he's getting traded anywhere within the conference. But
no, I agree with
that. You're probably right. Yeah.
But Hoffman, Hoffman, I did hear, the Islanders and the Buffalo Sabres connected to. So maybe the Florida Panthers are a little bit more willing to do that. But the team that is really interesting is Chicago, who is a team that's coming on as of late.
But who are they going to give up as a defenseman? They don't have any.
That's a really good question, and again, I don't.
Duncan Keith.
Oh my God! If they did that, they would be under so much fire.
Rush, you and your logic, because I agree with you. But at the same time, like I wrote in my blog, logic only works if you have every factor in front of you, and we only have like a few factors because we don't know everything about these players.
Yeah.
Remember, Russ.
The next one's the big one. The next one's the big one, which I wanted to get Mike's opinion on because you haven't seen the rumor chart, and that would be Ryan Miller. Okay, who we know Ryan Miller's in California. He has a Model S wife out there. He's very happy with $1.25 million salary cap hit, which is really nothing. Playing amazing. But also at the heart of it, from being in Buffalo, Ryan Miller is a competitor and wants to play and wants a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and he's not going to get it in Anaheim this year. Right. So there you have this is why I have the Toronto Maple Leafs at 25% for Ryan Miller. And I think if all the backups you could get, and I talked to somebody about this in Toronto today who said that this wasn't impossible, because I said, am I wrong about this? Somebody told me this a long time ago, and I wrote it off completely because I'm like, I thought Anaheim would be in it, and Anaheim still could be in it, but they could fall out of it as well. If they fall out of it, Ryan Miller is a great chip for them to trade.
Well, you're not wrong, but I'm not looking at Cap Central or Cap Friendly, but I know that there's some no trade or no move provisions in his contract. Otherwise, he wasn't going to sign it, because the reason he went to Anaheim was basically because his wife works in the entertainment business. I don't, if you're talking about February and him basically signing on for 3 or 4 months, maybe it's possible. But I think that the Leafs need is right now in backup, as a backup. They're gonna look at and see if Hutchinson can play better. Since they called him up today. I mean, this is the best of. I know that the names that came out last week were guys like Casey DeSmith and Tristan Jarry, and I'm like, okay, Pittsburgh is not trading those guys because Matt Murray gets hurt all the time. Right. And Tristan Jarry, DeSmith is in Scranton. He cleared waivers. He's assigned for another couple years. Jerry is making less than league minimum right now because he was on an extension.
Ass off. He really is.
And Jerry is a goaltender that I could see a team that doesn't have a future number one making a trade for because they think he can be a number one. So they're not going to.
I think Seattle's going to grab him because I don't think that. Depends.
No, Ross. I think Pittsburgh is going to trade him before that because they don't want to lose him in expansion. They can at least get a second round pick and maybe something even more than that for a guy who might be a starting goaltender for somebody else.
It depends. Maybe better to lose him than somebody else because you knew you wouldn't be able to hold on to Jerry. Anyhow, it all depends.
Yeah, so I think that. I've talked to 2 people who say it's possible that Ryan Miller could end up in Toronto. Things would have to happen in certain ways, obviously. Right. But of all the backups out there, you've got a guy who can still play, who has won in the playoffs, who can not a Stanley Cup, but has been proven to be a big game performer. And it would be ironic, of course, for Buffalo Sabres fans to have Ryan Miller in Toronto, but.
Well, it'd be ironic.
It feels like the way things go in hockey, like in some way, shape, or form. Like it feels like Ryan Miller will. This is like a destiny thing. It
would be ironic because Ryan Miller's career record versus Toronto, it's the team he had the best record against. He's been a Leaf killer for his entire career. Now, of course, think negatively. He could be a Leaf killer if he comes to Toronto and plays like crap. That would be a Leaf killer. But he's still a great goaltender. He's older. He can't play the number of games that he can anymore, but he would be the guy. And I'm telling you right now, the Leafs have to find some way to keep Frederik Andersen under 60 games. He got them the 2 points against Colorado on Saturday. They took a 4-1 lead and they sat back. Yeah. And I don't know if the altitude got to him or whatever, but Andersen was the only reason they held on for that victory on Saturday. But the thing is, you cannot keep playing. He played every game of the road trip except the one that Kaskasuo played on Saturday. They need to win with their backup goalie. So eventually, Dubas is going to do something. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go through some other players real fast, just like that are on the rumor chart, and just like quick thoughts about them, and we'll just in rapid form. But Kyle Turris, who's been scratched now a bunch of games in Nashville. Immovable. Okay, there are
similar contract.
Right. There are 3 players on this that are immovable. Okay, and I'll tell you, and I'll admit they're immovable. However, I started to hear what people call the Sergei Makarov thing, which is like funny because you go back to that whole system of like, okay, the Predators give you Kyle Turris, a first-round draft pick, and something else, and
not Malakoff, not Malakoff.
Vladimir Malakoff.
Malakoff, sorry. Yeah, Vladimir Malakoff, sorry. And that's the way Ryan Miller happens. That's the only way Jack Johnson happens. Okay. Those are the two those are the two. And then Mike Quick's on here too. I mean, Jonathan Quick's on here too. I always call him Mike Quick. Jonathan Quick's on here too, but that's like for Jonathan Quick to get traded, there would have to be a serious butterfly effect in China somewhere. But I think that this is like,
because the Kings won't give up a pick to trade him. They won't.
They won't. I also have Julius Honka, who is playing in Finland right now, obviously. But and he's got to be traded by December 1st, similar to Jesse Pujärvi. Both are in Finland, but both have a little bit of interest in it. Pujärvi only really Honka not nearly. Honka's hard to find any specific team, so I only put like Dallas Stars 20%.
Honestly, why hasn't there been talk of a Pujärvi for Honka deal? Because that would help both teams.
It might not be bad. Yeah.
I honestly don't know if Honka will get traded.
Yeah, I only have a 20% that he plays in the NHL at all this year. So that's probably really high.
Yeah. Teams will give a last minute effort to Pujärvi, but it'll be up to Ken Holland to see if he's going to do it or not.
I really think Pujärvi only has one team, and that's Montreal. And I've looked everywhere, and Pujärvi, the only team that he would actually want to go to, and he really wants to go there. There's a bunch of guys on that team that are friends of his that are pulling for him to go there. There is some pressure gupping there that they could say, hey, we could get this guy for nothing. Then Jack Roslovic is another guy I have on here.
Really? I'm surprised that they trade him.
Yeah, I am too, but
Chevy really likes him. That's why I'm surprised.
Is Brian Little still out injured? Because if he is, I can't see them trading Roslovic.
No, you wouldn't think so either. But there's still some. I've heard I know Chevy likes him, but I've heard I've heard both sides of that actually. There's more to that. I can't get into, but Rasmus Ristolainen is on this list too, even though, things are getting better in Buffalo.
Well, the Ristolainen chatter started picking up last week again, not because he's not playing well, but because they're just, right now the Sabres are just where they were last year. They're not performing very well. The only guys that are scoring goals are Eichel, Skinner, and Reinhart, with an occasional power play goal by Victor Olofsson. Their defense is loaded, and they need forwards. They're just not deep enough up front. So, you're not going to get a top six forward for Marco Scandella. You might get it for a guy like Ristolainen. You probably get two pieces for Ristolainen. They have depth on the right side, so it would make sense. And but we know Bogosian will come back and he'll get hurt in 3 weeks.
Right.
But more than likely, guys like they've been scratching Colin Miller and as a healthy scratch, and he hasn't earned that in terms of bad play. It's just been a numbers game.
I think Montour played as a forward recently again, right? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's true. John Gilmore played as a forward.
Chris Kreider's on the list too. I
don't think Kreider's going to get traded. I think they're going to work out a deal. I don't get the feeling he'll be traded. I think he's too important in the locker room. There's nobody to hand over the captaincy to. I think Jeff Gordon's a guy who originally scouted him in Boston, drafted him in New York.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go.
Yeah. All right. I think I say Jack Johnson, but again, that's going to have to be special circumstances there. That has to be the same kind of situation. You're talking about maybe a team like Detroit who takes a first-round draft pick and a second-round, and to just carry Jack Johnson's contract for next year. Jimmy Howard is another name. And here's another goalie, obviously. The name I hear with him is the Colorado Avalanche. And I think the Colorado Avalanche have to make a move for goalie. And I think Jimmy Howard is probably the right goalie for them to get.
That's a good fit because he probably has spent a fair amount of time in that area just with the U.S. team and everything back in the day.
The weird thing about that is to think about those two teams making a trade because of when I grew up is still kind of funky. But I think that's gone away. I don't think that exists.
If not Jimmy Howard, I still think that the perfect fit for Colorado. I think he's still viable because I saw him play last week and he played really well. Is Craig Anderson.
And I also have him on the list. I also have him linked with Colorado, also linked with Calgary. Craig Anderson, I was told, which is another name that I think you could see happening there as well. I have Jonathan Duran on this list.
Well, he's out for 2 months now, so
that's 2 months right now. So
if he comes
still,
Yeah.
The team there is Colorado as well, and that's like another team, and that
Well, that's the natural Nathan McKinnon connection, which until if he never goes to Colorado, if he's 35 years old, you'll still hear Nathan McKinnon, Duran.
You always will. I know, and he's got to. I feel like you got to play them together eventually. See if Duran really is what they thought he could be. Gostisbehere I have on this list, and there I've heard Florida's name mentioned, and I think that makes some sense.
That's obvious because he's from there. Yeah,
he's from there, but not just that, but there's also Philadelphia people down there in that organization who like him a lot.
And you could make the comparisons in terms of style of play between him and somebody who Joel Quenneville coached in Chicago, and that's Brian Campbell. They're very similar type players, puck rushing, offensive minded. Maybe Quenneville gets him to sort of buy in more defensively, but
yeah,
that'll be costly.
Yeah, it will be. I also have Drew Doughty on here, even though that's a contract that seems impossible to move, but I've heard that they're trying to figure out a way to do it. And that's all I've really heard. I put Florida on there at a 20% for him just because, that seemed like a team that might do it. But at the same time, Ellie's going to have to eat a bunch of that contract to do that.
Well, I mean, until Doughty gets traded, I don't know how the heck Toronto would pull it off, but there's always been doubt. Now, I don't know, maybe Doughty rumors to Toronto died with Babcock leaving because Babcock was always a big Doughty fan, especially in the Olympic situations. But, there's always been that tie there, but they can't have 4 $10 million plus contracts. They would have to move significant salary out, and they're not trading Marner, and they're not trading Tavares, and they're not trading Matthews. So I don't see that as a possibility. But teams that got room, and I don't know how much room Florida has, but anything's possible.
Yeah, Ryan Donato is also on this list out of Minnesota. I think that I've heard that he's not necessarily fitting in there. Trevor Daley, of course, is a name that comes up a lot.
He's a rental.
He's a rental, and I heard Winnipeg with him. Andreas Athasaneu, I've had him on here. I've talked about him before. The Islanders, Oilers, and Ducks, actually, which is kind of an interesting one. The Ducks and the Blue Jackets are two teams that could do weird things. Like they could be out of the playoffs and yet still trade for what appear to be rentals, knowing that they can re-sign them. That's what I've heard.
I think Jarmo Kekalainen could be the dumping area because they have so much cap space. He could be selling cap space at the deadline. I think that's a very distinct possibility.
That's not a Jack Johnson possibility, that actually.
Yeah.
Because I think that there are people in that organization that are connected to the USA Hockey program who might be willing to give Jack a chance. And then Craig Anderson again, like I talked about. So that's the 20 that I have on here so far. We'll get into more of that for sure. I have a couple questions from the chat room before we get out of here real fast. So I've been asked a bunch of times, Mike, to ask you if you think the Islanders are still missing the playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah. I like to stick to your convictions there.
Yes. Bite me. Yes.
On the Islanders and the Oilers. Are the Oilers missing the playoffs too?
Yes.
Oh my. The Oilers are number 1 now in the NHL. You know that, right?
I know. They're going to miss the playoffs.
That's all right. We'll find out. Someone asked me what I thought of where is this? Sorry, I gotta find this again. What I thought of Kevin Hayes so far, and my answer is not great. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't in favor of the signing when it happened. He's not. I mean, obviously he's got skill and talent, but his like compete level is all over the map, and that we kind of knew that's been his MO since he came into the league. Like that's why he's bounced around. I mean, Kevin Hayes is like, that's why the Rangers weren't willing to go hard on him because it's just, that's why Winnipeg let him go. And before that, where was he? He was in Chicago, right? Wasn't he in Chicago?
Not sure.
Or Boston. I'm trying to think where Kevin Hayes
was.
No,
Kevin Hayes was signed with the Rangers. Then went to Winnipeg.
Right, but his first team, am I thinking of the other?
Chicago,
Chicago, right? And Chicago, he didn't sign with. Like that was like a big deal.
Right.
That was a big problem there. So. Yeah, I'm just not. I mean, listen. I didn't like when they threw an A on him the other night because I'm like, he's not like an assistant captain on this team. But that's I don't know that
Well, that's more Vino and his familiarity with them, and
Yeah,
if anything,
and I think
so.
that was like his wedding present basically was Kevin Hayes. Like, we're welcome to the team. You can sign one guy, and you want to sign Kevin Hayes. So he's definitely made it interesting, and it kind of messed up the Flyers early on because I was giving Kevin Hayes more ice time than I thought he deserved. Now I think he's giving Kevin Hayes about the right amount of ice time, so it's really not as bad. I really like the Morgan Frost, Konechny, Giroux line. I'm a big fan of that line right now. I'll just throw that out there. I think that it's really invigorated Giroux a lot because he's playing with like fast guys who are skilled guys, and you can see Giroux's just loving it. And Morgan Frost has been very impressive. Like, he really looks good. He has some real skills and deceptively quick shots. Like his hand speed is very, very good. Like that's something, and his release is insane. Like, and because he's not super fast, he doesn't look like he's going to do things, but just his release, he gets a lot of shots on net that other players don't get on net. Put it that way. Like out of like scrums and stuff like that, he'll get a shot on net that just sort of amazes you. So anyway, that's my thoughts on there. I think it's all the time we have for today, guys. Remember, we will be back again tomorrow. Remember, in this Thanksgiving week, I guess we won't be here on Thursday or Friday probably. So just the next 3 days are the only chances you can catch us. Go to HockeyBuzz.com, check out the rumor chart. Go to Patreon.com/hockey to support the podcast. That would be great. And also, you can follow Mike at Mike in Buffalo to follow Mike's travels throughout the greater Niagara area today. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.